What's up? What's up? Welcome into the Orange Zone podcast. I'm Tommy Sladek. We have Samantha Croston. Ashley Wenskowski is on vacation. Hope she's enjoying Cali. We also have Rachel Culver as the producer, but we don't have the producer mic today. So she's here. She's behind the wall, but we won't be able to hear from her. So if she has any hot takes, she just might need to run in here and knock me over, which is fine.
Come on around.
Yeah.
More the merrier.
We have a lot to get to today. And the starters is it's Lax postseason, baby. We're going both the SU men's and women's ranked 3 in this week's Inside Lacrosse poll. We're in a good spot for both teams, and we haven't been able to say that in recent years, especially for any type of postseason play. We also have some transfer news with Syracuse men's basketball. It happened last week, but we haven't gotten a chance to talk about Jaquan Carlos and what he could bring coming from Hofstra. We also have Syracuse football. It's constantly just some players, especially in that class of 2025, making moves, including yet another guy from Christian Brothers Academy right in Fran Brown's own backyard. So let me start off by just asking you how you are. You're coming off a nice week off. You feeling good?
I am feeling good. I'm feeling like, it's totally different. I feel like when you have those 3 or 4 vacation days versus an entire week.
Oh,
now you're
time.
talking about a completely different kind of just checked out, being able to hang out. I went to a Billy Joel concert right at the end, which was honestly amazing. I did it one other time, but this is one of his last times playing at MSG. He's coming to a close, retiring, you could say, from his whole MSG situation. But that was definitely the highlight, because I'm sure you remember this, but he essentially years ago was like, I'll keep on doing one show a month until it stops selling out. And it's like years later, and it still sells out every single month. So it's pretty crazy, the run that he's had.
I got to get there. That is totally on my list. And it sounds like I'm running out of time, because I'm a big Billy Joel fan. I mean, who
Favorite
isn't?
song?
Oh, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Wow,
Because
that's not what I would have guessed.
It starts off slow, and then boy, when that piano comes in and it picks me up, or it picks up,
it picks you up.
Gosh, it's one of the only songs that's like 7 minutes that I will actually listen to all the way through. My attention span's gone after normally 2 minutes. I'm like, skip. How about you?
It's kind of a tie between Uptown Girl and For the Longest Time.
Oh, so good.
So
Vienna's
good.
up there.
Yep.
I mean, he just heaters. Rachel, what's yours? I'll share it into the mic. You can scream it. Piano Man?
No, she said Vienna.
Oh, Vienna. We need that mic back.
Piano Man, are you for real?
We need that mic back. Anyway, lacrosse. Want to talk about it? Let's get into the men's first. Actually, no. Yeah, that's the most prevalent. That's the most coming up, because the Syracuse women's, their ACC tournament already happened. I'm sure there's some frustration you're feeling with how that finished out, but let's talk about the men. ACC tournament comes back this year.
Thank God.
It's going down on Friday. I don't know if it's a thank God for me.
It is for me.
It's at that point, I think if you were making the ACC tournament, let's remind people that the men's conference is 5 teams. It just happens to be 5 of the best programs in the country year in and year out, in UNC, Virginia, Duke, Notre Dame, and Syracuse. In the 4 out of the 5 get in, so just one team doesn't get in, the UNC, sorry, see ya. These 4 are 4 of the top 5 teams ranked in the Inside Lacrosse poll.
Yes.
So basically at this point, it's just kind of a which brother can win at the end of the wrestling match at the end of the night, and who can put themselves in the best situation. I don't think it can hurt anyone at this point.
No, probably not. And I agree with you. Listen, this time around, and most of the time, obviously this is a stacked conference, but still, I just like the thought that one of these teams will ultimately get an automatic bid. Like, to me, that just feels fair. I like the fact that you know that at least one person is going to secure their spot, and you never know. Maybe when it does come down to seeding in the NCAA tournament, that does matter. It puts you in a different position. So I think it's almost like it's like a tryout. It's like, how well can you do so that when the big dance does come around, you're putting yourself in the best position possible.
And I'm pretty comfortable in saying that Syracuse is in, regardless.
Yes, I agree.
So they're sitting at 3 right now. Top 8 get at-large bids, and then there's the auto bid. So it's really competitive, really aggressive. Like, there are great teams that don't get in.
100%. It's a small tournament. Yeah. I'd actually go as far as to say too small. I think they should expand it a little bit.
I agree with it. I agree with it. I don't think you can go full blown and be like, we're going 64, but I think it should be up a little bit.
Not 64, but yes, it could be up from when it's at for. I mean, I honestly think that there could be in the field this year. I would think there could be 30 competitive teams.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a good number.
I completely agree with that. And Syracuse is coming in as the 2 seed. So that win over Virginia really was the icing on the cake for them. So they're taking on number 3 Duke. And that is happening on Friday night at 8 o'clock. Syracuse got the best of the Blue Devils in the regular season. That was a huge win and one of the highlights, I would say. Maybe right behind the Virginia game for you?
Yeah, I would definitely put it there. And again, this is just... It's crunch time now, and it's funny to me because it almost, to me, feels like no matter what happened in the regular season, when it comes to the ACC tournament, it almost doesn't even matter. I mean, all of these teams who are playing in this tournament, I truly feel like not only could any of them win the ACC tournament, but also like all these teams could play each other 10 times, and any of them could have won 5 or 6 of them. Like I do feel like it's very competitive. So expect to see some different looks from Duke now that we're down the line.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited to see them play. What does Billy Dwan have up his sleeves this week? His over the shoulder goals, one of my favorites that I think I've ever seen. Will Mark, your boy, is playing like he's someone that's going to be a professional for years to come. And it's been fun watching him become the goalie he is. People
forget that he's coming from LIU. And the amount of shots that this kid was facing per game, the sheer amount of shots, I believe is part of the reason why he is as good as he is now. Like, he could have been playing at 100% better schools, but he chose to stay there. He plays at LIU. And because of that, and because of the volume of shots he gets now, it's like, I feel like he's getting that national recognition now. But I think that if you would have asked his LIU coach then, people would have told you that he was bound to be successful no matter where he was. I've always been very impressed with him as a goalie, especially for his size. I feel like, yes, he's tall, but he's definitely a little bit on the skinnier side. Like, he has a thin frame, and I feel like he just makes himself look so big in there. It's like no matter where the ball is, not only is he there, but his reaction time's really impressive to me. But honestly, I think that you'll find that outside of Will Mark, the star of the show will just be that collective offensive unit. I mean, that's Syracuse's MO on both sides right now, right? Is like they just have so much creativity and style and flair. So hopefully this is an opportunity to prove that. And like you said, maybe a little pressure off the shoulders knowing you're probably okay either way.
And what feels different compared to just the last few years is there's not just 1 or 2 guys that they're completely relying on. If they're having a quiet game, they're going to be in trouble. It's so many dudes are getting into that box score, and I think that's a part of the recipe for success with them right now.
It absolutely is. And you also just have players who have been on this team for a while, so they already have that chemistry that they've developed, but they're just a little older. Someone who comes to mind is an Owen Hilt or a Joey Spallina, where they were producing last year, but Spallina especially, this is a different kid a little bit from the kid who you saw last year.
Freshman to sophomore year. It's a big jump for most.
Probably the biggest jump that you'll see in a lot of these athletes because it's just, yes, of course, he had great lacrosse IQ and whatnot coming into it, but you sort of remember freshman year, there were times where, and you're an attacker, so you have to keep shooting, but he would be taking 8-9 shots, only getting 1 in. He's more productive this year. He's just a more efficient attacker, and he's making better decisions. You're seeing that pay off on the field.
There we go. So looking forward to it Friday night. That's going down, and then championship is Saturday or Sunday. I kind of forget, but just keep an eye out this weekend. If they win, they move on, and then the
Noon Sunday.
There we go, because then it's similar to the men's basketball where it's some of those tournaments are finishing up, and then Selection Sunday is happening that night. So that's going down for both the men's and women's side Sunday night. Let's talk about this women's team. The Orange are in. They're in. They're at 3rd this week in the rankings. They go to the ACC championship game, and they fall to Boston College. 15-8 is your final score. But when you look back and peel back the onion a little bit, you'll see an SU team that led 5-1, and then it was tied up at halftime 7-7, and they finished with a 15-8 loss. Syracuse is now 0 for their last 6 against the Eagles, and this dates back to the 2021 national championship game.
I mean, I remember that entire national championship game, watching it, should certainly, a couple things don't go Syracuse's way. They also get some cards and things that definitely change the outcome of that game. But honestly, that game especially, I felt like Syracuse at some point gave up. And you don't normally see that from that team, but I feel like at some point they felt like Boston College was just going full throttle on them, and they just felt like they couldn't compete anymore. I really believe that. Since then, you now have what I believe is some sort of a mental block when they're going up against this team. Because think about it, Syracuse and Boston College, again, it's one of those things. If they play 10 times, is Boston College winning 10 times? If they play 6 times, is Boston College winning all 6? Probably not. But the last 6 times that they've played, Boston College has beat them. Why? And why are they beating them by a pretty significant amount? The fact that they were up 5-1 in the beginning of the game, to me, honestly makes it worse. Like, Syracuse is the kind of team where normally you have to fight tooth and nail to get any goals against them. So how is Boston College in the end of the season winning to them by 7? People try and make this more complicated than it is when it's really simple. If they cannot figure out a way to beat Boston College, they're going to have a really difficult time winning a national championship. And at this moment in time, Boston College owns Syracuse. They just do. And I don't think that it's because they don't have the talent to beat them. I don't think it's because they don't have the people and the pieces to make it work. I think it's because there is the belief that they can win against Boston College has been stripped down from time and time again. Boston College somehow coming through. I think there's a few things at play, right? It's interesting because, of course, Kayla Traynor coached there, won a national championship with them. Does that play a role in it at all? Like, you would think in a way that could be a positive because she's going to see and would know about some of their offensive strategies and the way that Acacia Walker Weinstein, I believe, or Weinstein, it's one of those two, but the way that she coaches, and yet it still seems like, I don't know, maybe Boston College and that coaching staff just have a little more experience. I'm not sure exactly what to chalk it up to, but it's bad, and it makes me feel very not confident about what could happen down the line when I truly thought and still do believe this is a national championship caliber team. Now I'm not sure if they're going to win the national championship, though.
It's really swayed you that much.
It really has, because I really realized, like, I don't know what game number 6 did for me to make me realize this, but lost to them in the regular season, lost to them in the ACC championship. I'm normally the kind of person who would tell you, okay, something like that maybe makes me feel better, because, I kind of believe in that reverse psychology a little bit. Very tough to beat an opponent 3 times. And, of course, now that I'm going on this rant and saying this, Syracuse is inevitably going to beat BC in the NCAA tournament and then win the national championship. But honestly,
good.
And if that's the case, fine. I want them to prove me wrong then, because at this point, I don't know that I'm putting my money on them. If it does somehow end up being Boston College and Syracuse in the semifinal or the final, I'm not putting my money on Syracuse at this point. I need them to prove me wrong to see that now.
And it's an uncomfortable trend, because I still do think they're a national championship team, and I think they can be a national championship team if if Boston College isn't getting in the way. Because again, I mean, let's talk about this. 6 times just since the NCAA championship in 2021. That's a lot of meetings. They face each other a lot. Yeah. And last year, as you were talking, it made me reminisce on something. I know they lost to them in the NCAA tournament, which was just a horrible draw, I thought, in the way that went down. But in the regular season, you might remember this, they played this game at the SU Soccer Stadium towards the end of the regular season. They were ranked 1. Boston College was 5th. They come out into the first quarter winning 7-3. Halftime, it's 11-6. They ended up getting outscored in the fourth quarter 7-2 and falling 17-6. There is something down the stretch that needs to change when it comes to these teams. And whether that's BC figuring something out with Syracuse, adjustments need to be made. I'm sure the coaching staff does not need anyone else at this point saying to them something needs to change. There needs to be some sort of adjustment here. Obviously, they're working on it. I'm sure it bothers them 20 times more than it bothers any one of us or the fans or anyone watching. But something needs to change. And they're going to get over that hump. It's going to happen. But can it happen when it matters most? And the hypothetical is that they face them again in the NCAA tournament, and I would be 0% surprised.
I mean, that really is the question. And maybe it says less about Syracuse and more about Boston College as a team. I mean, definitely credit to the Eagles. Like, that is a team that is a no-quit team. There has never been one time where I've seen those two teams playing where Syracuse has been up by any amount where I've really felt secure and confident and like the Eagles couldn't pull off a comeback. I do think, and I really need to find out if it's Acacia Walker Wine. I'm going to go with Weinstein right now, and if I'm wrong, then roast me in the comments for it. But that is somebody who probably in the women's college lacrosse world, I'd probably put her on my Mount Rushmore of coaching. I really think she's one of the top coaches in the entire sphere. And I do think that makes a difference, right? She's someone who has a lot of experience. People forget this because Coach Trainer is an amazing player and she inherited an amazing team, but she is still a new coach and she is still a young coach. Like, you do wonder if that has something to do with it. Boston College is a team that is always going to be known in part for the fact that they do make in-game adjustments. They're always going to be throwing something new at you based on what you're giving to them, and they're never going to be out of the fight. So how do you combat something like that? Yeah, it's a little bit coaching and being ready to make those adjustments, but it's also just a little bit about, I really do think, belief. I think it comes down to that word. That's the word I'm going to stick to.
All right, so switching gears to basketball, this news came in basically probably right after we recorded last week, so weren't able to squeeze it in. But Syracuse men's basketball has a new point guard, Jaquan Carlos, Brooklyn kid, comes from Hofstra, did 3 years down there with the Pride, and now comes up to help be a veteran. And according to John Rothstein and a few other experts out there, they call him a glue guy in basketball. And I love glue guys. I love glue guys on the court, and I love glue guys off the court. That leadership, that voice, that person you can count on. And Jaquan seems like he's that guy.
Would you have considered last year Quadir Copeland to be the glue guy?
Yeah, I would say so. But even with Quadir, it still felt like there were just emotional moments on that team. And it felt like it wasn't necessarily one player that would be able to control all of what was going on. But I like what he brings, and he's a versatile player, averaged 10 points per game, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. So he's dynamic playmaker. He brings that experience. So I think it'll be, we'll see what happens, but it'll be Carlos and Elijah Moore, the incoming freshman, taking some spots there. And one of the other questions happening in the fan base right now is Kadari Richmond, who, fans loved and were just so bummed when he left for Seton Hall. He's now in the portal again. Does he come back to Syracuse? We'll see. I think they got Carlos with the intention of him being their guy and him getting some serious minutes. But as I said to you before the show, there's also a part of me that's always, as a coach, I don't think you're ever going to say no to someone that you believes can be the best possible fit. And maybe Kadari is that guy. Maybe they're not interested. Who knows? Yeah,
I think, I was thinking about it too, like where I sort of fall on this debate. And I do have to say, I think sort of more what you were saying at the end there. It's like, if you have the opportunity to get someone who you think could benefit your team in some way, why not just take that risk and that chance? Worst case scenario, there's one too many cooks in the kitchen and somebody needs to sit or someone isn't getting as many minutes as they originally planned on. But the positive to that is that you're probably having more competitive practices. Like, you're probably having 2 or 3 guys who are all competing for a starting role and who are really desperate to make that happen. Because none of them had that role last year. And to me, that feels like you're going to be getting there 100% every single day, as long as they're up for the competition, which most athletes are.
Big time. And the other CUSE news, we've known that he's been committed to Syracuse, Donnie Freeman, finishing out this year on the recruiting rankings. He just kept jumping. Especially with the way that he was able to impress a lot of scouts and a lot of people in that scene towards the McDonald's All-American Week, through those practices, through those games. So on ESPN and on 3, I believe, he finished 6th overall in the country, which makes him the highest rated recruit on those sites in ESPN since Mello. So that's special.
That's truly amazing and incredible.
Yeah, I'm excited for Freeman to come in. And switching gears to CUSE football, class of 2025, there's guys coming in every other day, it feels like, in a Fran Brown's team. And the latest one that really caught our eyes, naturally, being in Central New York, is Daunte Bacheyie from Christian Brothers Academy here in Syracuse/DeWitt. 6'5" receiver. Very fun when we got to cover him last fall. And he was one of those dudes where it was such a stacked offense, right? Syer Torrance, Darian Williams, that he's getting into the mix, getting those reps. And so he was really able to impress us. Big kid. And that makes him the third from CBA for the class of 2025, joining Darian Williams, who is super, super fast, we're learning, and Matthew Hahn, O-lineman. So Fran Brown said he wanted his own backyard. He's doing that. Saw him at the 25th annual Jim and Julie Boeheim Foundation basketball gala over the weekend. So
how was that?
Fran was there. That was very cool. And Jim actually took the time to really just kind of call out, and I agree with him, John Wildak's hires in the last few years with Felicia Legette-Jack, Adrian Autry, and now Fran Brown. And basically being like, things are working. And gave a big shout out to Fran Brown and says, I've met so many coaches in my life. I've been impressed by so many coaches. He's like, this one is something really special. Took the time to do that in what's a busy night and very basketball heavy. And it was cool seeing kind of the who's who, the faces of Central New York, really wanting to go up and say hi to that man. So people are feeling it. There's a juice in the air.
He has that little magic in him, I don't know what, but it makes everybody feel very drawn and very attracted to him and his presence and his personality. But it's funny when you brought up CBA. You know who's the one person who got away, who I feel like is the one that got away, who I really wish we had?
Who?
Syer Torrance.
Yeah.
I just saw him again yesterday because I was interviewing him just for a different story. That kid is just such a nice kid. I don't know why I have it in my head that like a year or two down the line, he's going to come back.
Maybe.
Like I could literally see the graphic in my head. I don't know what it is, but just remember to maybe clip this if I'm right in a year or two.
Yeah. But we're wishing him the best. And I remember when he did his commitment to Boston College, it was our whole thing. And what you asked him about is, sometimes the kid from Syracuse needs to get out of Syracuse.
I mean, I completely get that.
And J.J. Starling and Notre Dame. Sometimes you need to go away. You need to see something different. I totally get that. But if he comes back, I don't think anyone would be upset. That's for sure. But wishing him the best at Boston College. I hope he crushes it for them.
I have one last question for you. Sort of just a prediction question because I don't really feel like I've discussed this with anyone yet, and I want to. I know it's really early, but that's what I think makes this interesting. I'm wondering if you could tell me, by the end of this football season, what do you think that Syracuse's record will be, and what do you think the outcome of the season would be?
It's such a loaded question. I hate that question. I did like Fran Brown's answer after the spring game where someone asked him, how would you rate your team from a scale of 1 to 10? He said 5. I love that. You come out saying an 8.5 in the spring. It's like, no, you're not.
5.
Yeah. I like 5.
That's good.
I like 5. It means you've been liking what you're seeing, but there's work to do. I mean, I always like giving coaches the benefit of the doubt in year one. I like giving people time to create their culture. And I experienced that just from watching Matt Rule. And Fran Brown was on his staff where we called it the rule of thirds, which he did at Temple and Boston, or in Baylor, where he had a horrible first year. Second year, like bowl eligibility. Third year was a 10+ win season. Did that twice in a set of 3 years. But I'm going to bless you.
Thank you.
I'm going to give a little bit more of a bump to this team just because of the schedule. It's a very favorable ACC schedule. I think they could win it. I genuinely think they could win the ACC. It's possible. It depends on how things click. I think anything less than 8-4, I'll probably be naturally disappointed. I don't think it would be anything to be alarmed about. But probably 8-4, maybe 9-3. That would be great. I think the ceiling's higher, but I mean, a 9-3 would be pretty awesome. I look at that defense. I look at that offense. I'm like, these guys are good. Good.
Okay. At least we know your too early season prediction.
Yeah, what's yours?
I'm going to boldly say it's a 10-win season.
Wow. Love it.
So if I'm boldly wrong, that's totally fine.
That's cool.
Yep.
I'm cool with that.
I'm just going to say it just short and sweet, and we'll just circle back around when the season's over, see what happens.
Yeah, drop your prediction in the comments. You're way too early. And we got to mention, it's way too early. So
it is way too early.
You can be loose with it.
Yeah.
But all right, I'll go.
And you could be wrong with it,
Yeah.
but just predict it anyway, because if you're right,
I'm sure
then
I'll
you
be
look
wrong.
even better.
I'm sure I'll be wrong in August too. It's a good thing. It's the beauty of these things. I'm Tommy Sladek. That's Samantha Croston. This is the Orange Zone Podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. Forgot to mention in the beginning, as we chase 1,000, we'll hit it by the end of summer, for sure.
Oh, no doubt.
Rachel Culver says hi. We'll be back next week. See you later.
And her favorite song's Piano Man.
Favorite song's Piano Man. See you later. Bye, everybody.